Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. I'm Dylan. Joining me, as always, is Ben.
Hey.
And we're back to do Mission Impossible. After the whole kerfuffle, we're finally here. Last week you got Mickey 17, and now, here it is. The first Mission Impossible film, based off the 1966 TV series. I had seen this one as a kid. I didn't remember too much about it. I feel like obviously, had you seen this?
So, I could swear that I'd watched this whole movie before, and then through most of it, there were like bits and pieces that I remember. It's almost like I had watched the Cliff Notes of this movie, where like certain things. So, are we just diving in? Are we diving right in?
Oh, sure. If you feel the need.
All right, cool. So let's just hit the spoiler.
Going.
Let's just hit the spoiler button right now. Spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie. Within the first half hour, when the entire team dies, I immediately thought to myself, like, I'm pretty sure John Voight's the bad guy. I think he just, I think he fakes this, and he's actually the bad guy. And then as I watched more, I'm like, no, that's 100% what happens. And then I was not surprised. I was like, yeah, okay, I did remember this.
And I wonder if part of that is like, you may have remembered it. I did the same thing, but I wonder if part of that is just also that this is like so iconic.
I think I legitimately remembered watching like Emilio Estevez hit the elevator. Like I remembered that part of the movie. I remembered everything with the CIA heist, not just like the trying to catch the sweat, but I remembered the whole thing. I will be honest, I did not remember the ending on the train. And I knew the whole mask thing, but I think that was just because it was so kind of played up. But it was like, it was one of those things where halfway through I'm like, have I seen this fucking movie all the way through? Am I just remembering shit? Or did I just like, have I seen like clips and bits and pieces of it here and there enough for me to kind of put together what's going on?
The freaking end scene on the train is so ridiculous.
Oh, 100%.
Most of the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm buying it. This is good. I'm loving. And then once we get to that scene, I was kind of like, all right, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt because the rest of the movie was
Which
okay.
part? Which part?
Okay. And this is, I don't know. I feel like a lot of heisty type like spy movies get into that point where it's like we've got to make this plot and this idea so elaborate to where people almost like get lost in the concept. Like all right, so to get into the room there's a voice scanner and a retina scanner, and then it's got pressure sensitive things, it's got sound sensitive shit, it's got like,
well, everything inside of the CIA, yeah, none of that was over the top for me. The part where the dude is hooked to a train via helicopter,
that's the part. That's the part where
somehow
I'm like,
manages to fly that into the tunnel. Is inaccurate enough that he couldn't have done anything else, but is also good enough of a fucking helicopter pilot that he can
to try
aim
and
the
slice
blades
his
down
neck.
to try to cut a dude's neck off. Like you're terrified about getting too close. You're trying to pull away, and then 2 minutes later, you're like, you know what? We're here.
And he tilted so far
let
forward.
Me tilt it down so I can try to kill this dude. And I'm like,
how are you not
2 minutes
crashing?
ago, you were terrified about not being able to disconnect from this. What is going on here?
Yeah.
I feel like they could have just had the plane crash, and then maybe Ethan Hunt hits the little green red thing and like stickies it just to John Voight's character Jim and like boots him off the train as he explodes or something. I don't know. You could have done something to carry that over without it being like, we're going to have the helicopter fly into the tunnel, and then he's going to use it, and it's going to blow up. And then it's going to blow up so close to him that he's not going to get hurt, but it is going to propel him far enough to catch up to a speeding train. into a
Oh
speeding
my
train. What?
God.
Yeah, the laws
That
of
was,
physics at the end just went out the window.
and
I
that's
think
where I'm
maybe
like,
that's where Tom
90%
Cruise
of the
was like,
movie.
Tom Cruise was like, you know what? From now on, the stunts have to be so believable. I'm doing them for real.
Yeah, I maybe because I do think like 90% of the movie I'm like, all right, I love an elaborate plot for the heist, like whatever. Most of it's like kind of just like a spy drama heist movie, like that's cool. And then yeah, that last once they get to the outside of the train, just all believability and like it becomes pure nonsense. I feel like at that point where it's like, let's just come up with cool action shit, and it's like, all right,
Yeah,
that's
it went from
like,
like this is a good spy thriller to like, you know what? Fuck that action movie. Let's just change genre and let's make this shit work. It's like, okay, well, wait, what? What's going on here?
just so everyone is got a little background. If you haven't seen Mission Impossible, I'd
If
be
you haven't
very
seen
surprised.
it, and you're also now coming to listen to a podcast about a movie you haven't seen and are confused, that's kind of on you, man. That's kind of your fault.
It is almost a 30-year-old movie at this point.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible is a 1996 spy urban adventure adventure thriller, according to IMDb. Currently sits at a 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Directed by Brian De Palma, written by Bruce Geller, David Cope, and Steve Zalian. It's the story of an American agent under false suspicion of disloyalty must discover and expose the real spy without the help of the organization. It stars Tom Cruise, John Voight, Emmanuel Barrett, Henry Cizerny, Jean Reno, Ving Rhames, Kristen Scott Thomas. It's kind of it. I feel like
Emilio Estevez is in there for the first.
Oh, that's
bit,
right. He's like not even in the credits,
which is crazy to me. That like, yeah, you would think it's almost
he's a big name at this point. Why is he not in the credits?
Yeah, because what Young Guns would have been 94. Or maybe Young Guns 2?
Breakfast Club?
Well, yeah, but that would have been almost a decade prior to this movie coming out. This just feels like the type of movie that they pitched to him is like this is it. This is it, Emilio. This is your big comeback. Mighty Ducks, you've done the kids movie thing. We're going to get you back in the minds of adults, and we're going to relaunch your career. And it's like, all right, cool. I'm in. And then he got the script, and he's like, what the fuck? I die in the first 20 minutes?
I'm the hacker bullshit. Man, and then just get wrecked.
You're the group's hacker. You're going to be vital to Tom Cruise's mission in this movie. All right, cool. Wait, what? Too late. You signed the contract.
See you later.
After this, you can go back to Mighty Ducks 4.
Yeah, I was reading the or not. I was watching the movie. I guess not reading it. That's a bit fucking weird. But I was watching the movie and I'm like, huh. Oh wow, yeah, I forgot Emilio Estevez was in this movie, and I was like, oh wow, John Voight. Oh fuck, God. It's like this is the who's of fucking weird actors, like MAGA fucking actors. I was like, oh great.
Yeah.
And then of course I was like, John Voight's gonna be the bad guy. Like, of course.
Like I said, I watched it and I was immediately like, he's the bad guy, I'm pretty sure, in all of this. And then when it was like the mole thing, I was like, yep, 100%. That's what it is. Gotta be it. Yeah. I will say, this is weird to me. I had this thought throughout watching the movie. This is the character that Tom Cruise has played more than any other character. And yet, when someone says, name 3 Tom Cruise characters, I think of the movies he was in. I don't think of a character name. I'm like, oh yeah, Tom Cruise, Jerry Maguire, Maverick, and
Lex
then
Grossman from Tropic Thunder.
The guy from Cocktail or Risky Business, or what's the other one he did, or Days of Thunder, or this or that, and then like At no point am I like, oh yeah, Ethan Hunt. I'm like, he's done a shit ton of these movies, and yet still not what I think of him for. Which is crazy, because most actors, when they do this many movies, they are synonymous. Fast and the Furious, Vin Diesel. He's been in like 12 of those fucking movies. That's who I think of.
Yeah. But what's his character's name?
Dominic Toretto.
Okay. So I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have been able to get there.
Takes me a minute. I guess, I've seen one of those movies. I saw the first one.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
But I think it's just crazy to me because, like, hell, Michael Keaton's synonymous with Batman, and he only did it twice or 3 times. And it's like, Michael Keaton, oh, Batman. I feel like there's so many actors that are like that you think of, like, their defining role the minute you hear their name. And when I think of Tom, and normally that defining role is something that they've done multiple things of, and yet Tom Cruise, I nowhere near go to Mission Impossible, and they're on what's the one that just came out, like 8?
Yeah, I think so. 7 or 8.
Jesus Christ!
I mean, they're still getting decent reviews. They're still like 7.4s, and
I've heard they're still. Yeah, I've heard they're good movie theater blockbustery popcorn flicks.
Yeah, they just did 8.
So you got to think, they do like 9 and then call it? Like,
I
if
think
they
this one's
are
supposed to be the
making,
last.
This one is. I'm surprised. I would have thought maybe they'd try to make one.
I mean, it's
more,
called
like,
The Final
release it.
Reckoning.
Okay, and
what's the next one? Final Reckoning Part 2.
That means jack shit.
I don't know.
Mission Impossible 9: The Revival.
I do feel like Tom Cruise is a weird dude. Obviously the whole Scientology thing. I feel like he gets a lot of shit for that, and his ties to the church and stuff. But like,
well, not just like the weird thing of him. Let's be honest. It's been 20 years. And one of the first things I think of when you say Tom Cruise is that weird interview with Oprah where he's jumping up and down on the couch.
I'm in love.
It's 20 years ago.
But like, I feel like maybe it's just like him trying to like fix his image or whatever at this point. But I've seen a lot of stuff of him like lately doing press for this, or like people talking about like, oh yeah, like I worked on this Mission Impossible movie, and like he just sat with the PAs at lunch and like answered all their questions about filmmaking, and like he's like doing these like artist on artist things and like talking about like, oh, like you've got to know, like if you're an actor, you've got to know lenses and like how the camera works, and like he's like watch Jack Nicholson and like watch this movie and see how he interacts with the lens and how he speaks to it, and I really got that once I was a producer and had to make movies just like for lower budget, and I was like, man, that's really cool of him to like share that knowledge and like kind of teach the new generation. But at the same time, I'm like, you're still kind of an oddball.
I think he is one of those dudes that just like, one, I think he loves movies, and I think he's like obsessive about it, which makes him seem kind of weird. Almost Tarantino sometimes comes across the same way. Like, you can tell the dude's just really into it to a point where you're like, it's kind of creepy. But I feel like I've also heard like rumors that or stories that he is weird, but a genuine dude. Like, he's a good person. He's not. He seems kind of fake in the media-y stuff, but then I've heard the people that actually like talk to him in real life say that he comes across very genuine and not like what you see on a camera. So, and I don't know. Who knows? I can imagine that if you are, Tom Cruise is so into it that he's talking with people about the lenses and this and that and the other thing. The last thing he wants to do probably is talk about the same stunt that he shot for the 90th time with IGN because he's done 40 other interviews in the press thing that day, the junket, and like I know a lot of people say that as actors they're like that's my least favorite part of the job is doing the media rounds to promote stuff.
Well, yeah, it's like you just sit in a hotel room and then
Yeah, and people come in, they set up banners or whatever around you,
and then ask you the same 15 questions.
The same 15 questions. Then
all
they
day.
tear everything down and leave, and then the next person comes in, asks you the same questions. Yeah. No, I could imagine it would be kind of sucky, but yeah. I just still think it's crazy that I'm like, this dude's done 8 of these movies, and it's nowhere near the top thing I think of for him.
No. That is...
And I don't think it will be whenever he is done acting. I still don't think people are going to be like, and who could forget his work in the Mission Impossible series? It's like
I feel like the only thing I feel like
people
you think
you
of
think about the
is
fact
like
that he does
the
stunts. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think of him talking about the fact that he wants to like do shit in outer space and actually go up and film it himself in outer space.
I did love the old 1996 like tech kind of hacking-esque scenes where he's emailing Max at Job 314. Like that totally works as like an email address.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
All right.
Well, it wasn't really. I thought it was like they were messaging through like a chat room.
No, I thought it was emails.
Weren't they at like that website? And it was like, what do you want to chat about?
Oh, maybe. I thought it was like, I thought he was sending, I thought he was going to like each individual website about that and then like, contact us or whatever. And just
yeah, not how I took it, but.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Like I said, I don't know. I love a good elaborate plot for like a heist. Where like this one is like this room has temperature gauge, so if you sweat, it's gonna set off the alarm. If you put too much different weight in the room, it's gonna go off. If you fart in the room, it's gonna go. It's like all these like elaborate parameters for this heist just to set up for like this heist movie, which this has to be one of the most iconic heist scenes in a movie, right?
It's definitely up there.
Even if you haven't seen this movie, you know the shot of Ethan dangling above the floor, yeah, and like the sweat dripping down and stuff. Balance himself, yeah, like that has to be. That might be the most iconic heist scene, right? And it's so good. And the fact that, like, you have to be silent makes that scene so much more tense in my mind because you don't get all that extra, like, sound. And not to take away from Danny Elfman, I feel like he killed the score in this movie. It's so good. And, I mean, the Mission Impossible theme is, like, a classic theme that already existed, but
yeah, it's one of the most, like, I would say it's probably up there as one of the most iconic TV themes. Yeah,
and it's like, all right, well, he's just updated it for like a modern instruments and stuff, or like newer. Yeah, but but the score is pretty good. But like that scene where you don't have any of that and it's just silence is so well done, so tense. And I wanted to ask you, Ben. And I wanted us to try and build our Mount Rushmore of heist scenes or heist movies, I guess, whichever one is easier.
Okay. Well, it's tricky. The Soderbergh Ocean's 11 for sure. When it's like at the end, he's watching this like screen the entire time, and so finally it's like they call a SWAT team or whatever to destroy everything, and then he realizes that what he was watching was faked and that the SWAT team was the Ocean's 11 crew, and took everything is just like, oh my god, oh it's crazy. Uh, I'm trying to think other. Now, see, like I wouldn't consider it a heist movie, but I would say in terms of heists, like the first 10 minutes of The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's iconic.
I remember one. I mean, I remember going to the theater to see Batman Begins, and that movie ending with the whole playing card thing, and then it was God. That sequel didn't come out till '08, so it was like 3 years of like building anticipation. Then I remember right after Comic-Con, they released that like clip. Not all of it. It was only like the first 3 or 4 minutes. I don't think it was the entire thing. But everyone on the internet just went absolutely insane. And then I remember going to see The Dark Knight. We were up at the lake in the middle of nowhere. My brother was sure, because this was, bear in mind, youths, this came at a time where theaters did not do like a 6 or 7 p.m. opening on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
It was, if the movie came out Friday, the first showing was like Friday, maybe at 8 or 9. We were up at the lake. We went to the theater in Coldwater. My brother made us get there. I think the first showing was at like 10. We had to be there at like 8 o'clock. No one there. No one.
It's just you guys.
We got in. We sat in our seats. We waited like an hour. People didn't start showing up until like 20 minutes before the movie. And we sat there forever. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But I remember that scene opening, and you watch it, on a full screen, that first 10 minutes where, they kind of zipline across the building and everything's going on, and you're like, oh my god, this is crazy. I think that is one of the best movie heists that goes on the list. Now, in terms of not maybe scenes, but movies overall, I think you kind of have to give a nod to a movie like The Italian Job. I'd say probably like the original.
Heat.
Heat, for sure.
Have you seen Inside Man?
I've not seen it. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it.
I don't want to spoil the end, but the way that they do the ending is kind of original, at least to me. I haven't seen it done again, which I thought was really cool. If you have seen Inside Man, you may know or remember what I'm talking about. But that one is pretty original. I don't know if I would put it up there with the best, but I'm looking at this list. Point Break, like the
I was
bank
say
heist
Point Break
at the beginning of Point Break,
with the
casino heist in
ex-presidents.
Ocean's 11.
What was that magician movie with Jesse Eisenberg?
Now You See Me.
Now You See Me?
That one's
Talk about another like super elaborate, over the top type thing.
Inception.
Now, do you fully consider that to be like a full heist?
The like initial one I feel like is right, like because aren't they like they're like tricking the guy into giving them
like the code and
plans,
everything,
right?
the first like Inception and that. Yeah, I was thinking like the rest of the movie, like after they get into the second one and they're going like layer by layer by layer, and I'm just like, it's a heist, but my god, it's the entire freaking movie.
Let's see what else is on here. Heat. This one says Reservoir Dogs, but technically not a heist movie because the heist happens off camera.
It also fails miserably. That's the whole point of the movie.
Dog Day Afternoon?
Kind of along the same
It's
lines,
more,
right?
yeah, it's less about, like Reservoir Dogs is like after the fact, and then like Dog Day Afternoon is like in the middle of it, where it's not necessarily like this elaborate heist.
Yeah.
I mean, Rafifi, which I don't know if you've ever, if I don't think you've ever seen Rafifi, but it's like
No.
one of the original like heist movies. It's this old French film where they like break into a jewelry store from the apartment above it, and it does similar moments to what I think this movie does brilliantly, where it's like it's dependent on sound. Oh, is that are the cops coming? And so you got to like be quiet and like cover the windows and stuff. And so like I think when you play with audio in a movie, especially a heist movie like that, I think it makes it a lot more tense and does a really good job of like building the suspense.
I'm trying to think if there were other like really strong ones that kind of stood out.
I was gonna say I don't know if this is the right time to say this. I've never seen Ocean's 11, Ben.
Oh man, it's a good series. I mean, the sequels aren't as good.
Yeah, I've heard the first
the first one is definitely the
remakes.
best. The other two are good. They're all right. Yeah. Overall, I'm a fan. I'm trying to read through this other kind of list of other The Town I've not seen, but
I don't like The Town at all. Snatch?
I was gonna say Snatch, which we did for the podcast. This is The Usual Suspects, which I don't consider necessarily a huge thing, but then again, I mean, technically at the end, that's what they're kind of there to do. I don't know. I'm looking at these and now I'm like, man, there's some movies. Maybe I want to check these out.
I do want to see Sexy Beast.
Which?
It is. It's directed by Jonathan Glazer, who most recently did The Zone of Interest. But it's Ray Winstone and Ben Kingsley, Ian McShane. It's ex-safecracker Gal Dove has served his time behind bars and is blissfully retired to a Spanish villa paradise with his wife he adores. The ideal is shattered by the arrival of his nemesis, Don Logan, intent on persuading Gal to return to London for one last job. Maybe I just haven't seen that many like of the iconic heist movies, because I mean I've seen Rafifi, I've seen Heat a long time ago. We did watch Dog Day Afternoon on the podcast. Check out that episode if you want to. I've seen Inside Man. I hated The Town. Point Break I saw a long time ago. This one has Baby Driver. I feel like it's more the getaway scenes rather than the heist, but
Taking of Pelham 123, they remade that recently too, right? With was Denzel in the remake?
I think so. John Travolta, I know, is in it.
More recently than the 1974 version.
Yeah, yes. Are you on the Slash Film one?
I'm actually looking at Rotten Tomatoes, 88 best heist
Logan
movies
Lucky.
of all time.
I have not seen Logan Lucky either. Another
I
Soderbergh heist movie.
haven't either. That's the Soderbergh one with Daniel Craig.
Yeah, where he's doing
He
the
looks
southern
all
accent.
fucked up. He's got like the ice frosted hair in that.
Yeah.
The miscolored eyes, I think.
The
this
Killing.
is another one that's like Public Enemies with Johnny Depp and Christian Bale.
I didn't like that one.
it's overall. I mean, it's more so a biographical movie than really a heist movie.
Yeah, I feel like it's also more like
And even
kind
then,
of mobby gangster.
heists back then weren't really elaborate. A bank heist was you walked in with a gun and said, "Give me your money," and then you shouted loudly, "This crime was brought to you by the Soggy Bottom Boys." See, yeah, and then you fired your name in. Just gonna do John Mulaney's entire bit. You fire your name into the wall in a fucking machine gun, and then everyone knows who did it and who was responsible. There was
Then
no
you're just on the
stealth.
run the rest of the time.
Yeah, you go hide out for a couple weeks. You move to the next city, and you're fine. Cycle continues
Like
until you die.
who the hell
or
are
go
the
to prison.
Soggy Bottom Boys? I don't know those guys.
I don't know. I pulled that out of my ass. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that the name of the guys from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
That's where I got it from.
Um, my notes are so funny. It's like I was like, I say, I'm telling you, it was Jim, and then, and then later I have Brian De Palma with the split diopter off the top rope, because there's like the shot later in the movie when they're like revealing everyone's deaths, and you see, oh God, what's the female actress's, Claire? You see Claire like standing on the edge of a wall, and it's like her sitting there hitting the button while the other girl gets into the car, but they use the split diopter because they're both are in focus.
Yeah.
Which like Brian De Palma is like famous for. And there was even a whole
You know
Twitter
what? I
thread.
feel like we've had this conversation when we did one of the other Brian De Palma movies.
Yes,
Because we have done several.
Yes, when we did.
Was it Scarface?
Yes, I think it was Scarface. I know we talked about it in All the President's Men, which he did not do. But
I was gonna
I know we
say,
talked
I remember
about it.
we talked about it in another movie, but I didn't think it was a De Palma movie.
Yeah.
Oh man,
but,
I'm looking at the list of his movies. So many good ones.
Yeah, I don't remember watching The Untouchables. I feel like I've seen it because my dad owned it a long time ago. But
You want to watch The Untouchables? You set aside some time, and I am there, my friend. I own that shit on DVD. Maybe even Blu-ray. I don't know, but I know I've got it on disc.
but there's actually a whole Twitter thread like in the last month or so where like I guess the guy who directs the Mets games is a huge Brian De Palma fan, and so like they do all these crazy shots of like split diopters, like using the technology like in the broadcast, but like they'll do like split diopter shots. They'll do like some crazy shots through like glasses of this. I think it's called the Synagogue. It's like a Twitter page. They like shared it not too long ago of like some of the cool shots that they had. But yeah, God, all right. I'm going through my notes here. The scene that like. All right, I didn't remember too much about this movie. I mean, obviously, I remember like the heist scene, but I don't know where I saw it recently. But the scene, and it may have been like a cinematography thing, but the scene in the aquarium restaurant.
Oh yeah,
I had recently seen somewhere, and it is so good. Like I want to say it was a cinematography video talking about like how using the camera you can tell a whole story within that, where it's like you can slowly see as information is like given the way the camera changes and how it alters, and like even once the cat is out of the bag you go into those crazy Dutch angles, and like Oh man, like just the language of the camera in that scene is so good. Not to mention that the scene itself is very good and it builds this tension, and then you have Ethan using the gum that he was just given earlier in the night. But yeah, that whole I was like, wait a second, I feel like I'm missing it. There was a talking point that I had written down. I was like, oh, that scene, so good. But and
I thought there were a lot of good shots that I was surprised watching. I loved the shot of him when he's looking for the money in the bathroom, and it kind of like starts the overhead, and it just kind of slowly pulls up the more frustrated he gets, and he's throwing everything around trying to figure out where they stashed which was again, if I hadn't been clued in, kind of like a pretty heavy tip off of like, hey, it's kind of weird that, everyone's gone, but also all of the money that was there is also now gone.
Yeah.
That seems kind of... You just found out it was a mole hunt and all of the cash is gone? So, like, something should raise an alarm bell here.
Well, that's how I was like reading some of the reviews on like IMDb, and they're like, this movie is way too confusing. This movie... And I was like, I feel like it's very straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. People die.
Was this
Ethan Hunt is blamed. He goes on the run, tries to solve it, finds out that the thing they were after was going to be sold to an arms dealer. Steals thing, tries to sell to arms dealer to lure out mole, catches mole. Helicopter, train explosion. Mission Impossible 2.
Get the cringiest line in the whole film. Having tasted the goods, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. That whole line.
Oh God, yeah. I wasn't sure if you'd go for her or not, but after tasting the goods, it's just like, ugh, this sounds creepy. It doesn't shock me because honestly, it sounds like something John Voight would say in real life. This fully comes across that like something an actor who's married like a 20-year-old would definitely say. Like, yeah, I wasn't sure, but after tasting the goods, ugh, you sound creepy as fuck, dude. I'm kind of glad you died. Well, that's what was interesting. So I will say with this movie is that people who watched the show, Jim, I can't remember what his last name was. Palmer? Was it Jim Palmer?
Sure.
Fuck. Why am I blanking on the character's name? Jim Phelps. Jim Phelps. Was a big part of like the original series, and was like the director of the group. Actually, I think in the first 2 seasons, he starts off something else, and then later on, he becomes like the head of the thing. So like, he was a big part of the show. So when they killed him off in the beginning, and then made him the bad guy, it was like, oh wait, what? People who had watched the show were a little peeved because they're like, no, why would you do that? You've ruined the character. You ruined the character. And now people are like, that was a TV show? Huh? John Voight was in this movie? The first one?
Well, yeah, I was going to say,
I didn't start watching until the Henry Cavill one.
It says, according to Martin Landau, in an earlier treatment, the original plan was to bring back the entire original cast of the TV series just to kill them all off in the first act. And every member of the cast refused to participate.
No, instead we tricked Emilio Estevez into doing it. We couldn't get the Mission Impossible team. Then we tried the Brat Pack, and Emilio was the only one who said yes.
I'm just reading. I feel like I knew this. The number one trivia thing on there is that doing the drop from the ceiling and hovering inches above the ground, Tom Cruise kept hitting his head on the floor, and so he put coins in his shoe to balance himself. I was like, I feel like I read that somewhere.
Just to balance, not to make himself appear taller.
Uh,
Oh no, he went there. He made a short joke about Tom Cruise. What a monster! Come on, we all thought it.
this is the only film in the franchise where Ethan Hunt doesn't fire a gun. It is the only one to not have shootouts or gunfights either.
Oh, sounds like I need to watch the rest of these movies. All right, I love that I'm reading the wiki page about this, and I love the first section, kind of like the overview.
Yeah.
And the last sentence is, the film's success led to a long-running film franchise, beginning with Mission Impossible 2, released 4 years later. How does the franchise start with 2?
Well, I wonder if it's just completely... I wonder if it's like kind of just like completely like different. Oh, Wow, I didn't know John Woo did the second Mission Impossible. J.J. Abrams did the third one. What the?
Yeah, Brad Bird did. I remember Brad Bird doing Ghost Protocol because after he did it, people were like, he should really be doing like a superhero movie, because that was right at the kind of the crest as Marvel was going on, and then it was like DC's gonna do Superman, and then they're gonna relaunch Batman, and they're gonna do this and that and the other thing. It's like, who should do this movie? It's like, Brad Bird should do it. He's done The Incredibles. That was really good. And he's also proven he can do live action with the Mission Impossible movies. And then nothing came of it.
Sometimes I kind of forget.
Oh,
like you kind of
realize
forget.
the director of The Last Four is the guy who wrote The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, he's worked with Tom Cruise a lot.
Yeah, I just didn't realize he's been... I mean, again, to be honest... Oh, he's also the person who directed... he was on the writing... Yeah, he's on, like, the writing/production team with Tom Cruise.
For, like, all of his films.
All of his movies, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what, when the thing's going on in this, at, like, the intro credits, it's like, a De Palma Cruise film. And I was like, oh. All right, that makes more sense. Sometimes I forget. I feel like with like these big franchises, that sometimes like every movie is different. Like different director. Even like Star Wars is the same way. But you think of like Harry Potter. The first two were the same director. Both were Christopher Columbus, and then like the last couple were the same directors. But then, like this one, the first four are a different director, and then the last four are the same guy. And then you have, it's fun to go down these lists and be like, wait a second. This person directed this movie?
I guess
that's
it
like
kind of makes sense.
Alfonso Cuarón did a Harry Potter movie? Like,
it's like, because you look at the Mission Impossible movies, it's like 1, 2, and 3, I feel like weren't really as much, like, connected.
Yeah.
And then it feels like the last 4... Especially, too, because it seems like the last 4 have been kind of coming out more frequently.
Yeah.
Like, they're... I don't know. It seems like they come out faster and faster and faster, so... Oh, in June of 2023, Christopher McQuarrie stated that Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Final Reckoning would not end the series, and there are developments for future installments.
Great. I mean, as long as they keep making money, they're going to keep pumping shit out.
Tom Cruise expressed interest in continuing to make further films in the series as Ethan Hunt, despite both films having previously been billed as a send-off to the character. Inspired by Harrison Ford's continued success in Indiana Jones, Cruise stated he'd like to keep making Mission Impossible films until he is likewise in his 80s. However, in 2025, during their premiere, Cruise confirmed the film would be his final film in the series, stating the film is the final. It's not called Final for nothing. So I guess this is the end.
I mean, I'm sure it's a fine movie, but let's leave it off on a high note, Don't die making a movie, Tom Cruise. That's where the big thing is. Because, I don't know if it was this one or the last one, or the ones where he got injured, so they had to stop production. I was like...
It was the one that came out a couple years ago. It was whatever he
Dead
was
Reckoning.
jumping between buildings. I think.
Yeah, and he broke his foot.
I think it was maybe the one before Dead Reckoning. Then. Yeah, it was like they were running between buildings, and when he went to jump, his leg hit the side of the building, and like his ankle snapped.
Yeah, it's like, all right, man, we don't necessarily need to don't necessarily need to keep doing these if you're gonna get too injured.
My God, it looks
Well,
like they. I'm looking through like the kind of character breakdown.
you're going too
And
deep in the rabbit hole, Ben.
I know, because I'm not gonna lie, I will also mention this at the end, but I did finish this movie and then was like, I kind of want to watch the series now. I kind of want to do it.
I don't know if I'm too committed to the whole series. I'd probably watch like 2 and 3, and then like kind of like judge it from there. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like I want to get to the
feel
point.
like I heard really good things about like Ghost Protocol, and then I don't
do
know.
own I own the first 6 on Vudu or whatever, so it's like I could just go watch them if I really wanted to, but
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that they're all available to stream too, I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of.
if I'm kind of
maybe,
looking for something
maybe
to
I do
watch, you know.
I mean,
Yeah, I feel
again,
like-
for a series, it's just like, and it's. I think with the first one was a lot more had to pay attention. I think the further
Let's
you go
lead
on,
this in to our reviews.
okay,
Let's lead this into our reviews, Ben.
all right. Am I just transferring over now?
Yeah, no, well, you can
All right,
keep
all right,
that.
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So yeah,
Ben
I will
had-
say
Ben supposedly hadn't seen this film. I had whatever. Fucking go.
I maybe had, maybe hadn't. I remembered parts of it. Don't know. Yeah, this was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not groundbreaking. I don't think anyone's gonna sit there and be like, "This is one of the 10 best movies of all time." It's fun. I enjoyed it. It feels like a summer popcorn flick movie. Like I was just saying, it's kind of got me sitting there and like, I watched on Hulu and it ended and it's like starting Mission Impossible 2 in like 5, 4, and I was like, no, don't. But also maybe I will.
Add to list.
I enjoyed it. I kind of do think I'll probably end up kind of as, time permits that I have a couple minutes here and there or time at night to kind of watch something. I might pop these on and just watch through them. I think from my understanding, especially after reading through kind of the Wikipedia stuff and the fact that, like you said, Dylan, this is the only film in the franchise where there's not like gunfire in that. I think a couple of them might be a little bit more can kind of have on and just kind of tune in and out maybe, and still kind of get the gist of what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I would give this like a 5.5 or a 6, prefaced with or but adjusted to say it's a 5.5 or a 5.5 or a 6. I'm gonna give it a 6. I'll bump it. And it's not because it's bad. It's not because there's anything that I was like, this. It is what it is. It's one of those movies that objectively it's not great. It's above average. But it's fun. I'd recommend it. There are some things that will take you out of it. But overall, if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. Who knows? Maybe you'll be like me and you'll be like, oh, yeah, this was good. And now I might watch the rest of them. Who knows?
I'm gonna give this movie an 8 out of 10.
Whoa. Damn.
That's why I was a little surprised on the 5 and the 6. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was action packed without firing a weapon, which I thought was amazing. I think it's a blast. Shot really well. It is very ridiculous at times. Like I said towards the front, 85-90% of the movie is fine. There's I suspend disbelief a little bit. I can buy, whatever.
I
people
like
getting
movies
killed.
where guys run around in spandex saving people. So things being
Yeah.
far-fetched is not. It doesn't ruin.
Yeah,
things for
but
me.
when you're like trying to be like a thriller, like spy movie, and it's based in reality, like, all right. But when it gets to the point where it becomes a guy in spandex type movie at the end, where it's like this dude's on a fucking bullet train and he's holding on for dear life and he's jumping back in like rows and jumping from like the train to the helicopter and it crashes and he blows himself back onto the train. I was like, this went from no shots fired, like thriller, like a political thriller type movie almost, like, to just a pure like popcorn action, like Fast and the Furious level, like not Fast and Furious 1, like the later Fast and the Furious, where it's like, and now we're going to space, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, this was like a spy movie 2 seconds ago. Now we're like fucking dude's getting his head cut off by a helicopter. Like, come on, dude. I don't know. That last scene, it might have been higher, but that last scene, I just kind of was like, all right, now, come on. We jumped the shark a little bit here. But I thoroughly loved it. I think all the elements are there for a really good movie. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this one. And like you said, I do want to watch Mission Impossible 2. I do want to watch Mission Impossible 3. I think that one's got lower ratings than the others, but I would want to watch those and kind of like dip my toes in and be like, okay, like let's see if this is still good, in my opinion, and then maybe we'll do the next 4 or whatever it is now at this point. I kind of want to like, I want to do the same with Fast and the Furious. Like, I want to go back and watch like Fast and the Furious and like Tokyo Drift and like the first like 3 or 4 and be like, all right, how did we get to the point where we're like hour-long scene on a runway? You know, like I want to get to that point of Fast and the Furious. Yeah. If you enjoyed this film, or fucking not the film. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Share us with your friends and family. Leave a review wherever you listen. That really helps us out. Check us out next time. And as always, watch responsibly.